Hi everyone, my name is Ann Long. I'm an emergency medicine physician with 1st Medical Battalion, and this is my tech talk on wearable technology. I have no financial disclosures, and the views expressed in this presentation do not represent the official policy or position of the Department of the Navy, Department of Defense, or the United States government. These are the objectives for my tech talk today. First, we'll go into some definitions before describing the history as well as the state of the art in wearable technology. Then we'll move on to how do wearables relate to modeling and simulation. After that, we'll go into how wearables are used today, as well as why they're important, and the DoD applications as well. And finally, we'll finish off on where are wearables headed in the future. So starting off, the definition of wearable technology is essentially any type of electronic device or equipment that is worn on or close to the surface of the skin, typically in combination with software applications contained within the device itself. Wearable technology or devices are an example of the Internet of Things. This refers to a network of physical devices, vehicles, appliances that are embedded with sensors, software, as well as network connectivity that allows them to collect and share data. A lot of you have probably heard of these and use these in your daily life. I know I do. And they have a variety of applications, for example, fitness tracking, human performance, in terms of medical applications, contact tracing, clinical decision support, and medical screening or diagnosis. Some examples are listed here. For implantable wearable technology, a common example is a cardiac loop recorder, which is essentially a small device that is implanted in the skin near your heart. It monitors your heart rate and heart rhythm and generates recordings of any abnormal electrical activity. Then it saves the data to its memory bank and sends this data to your cardiologist as often as several times a day. So now we'll go into some brief history of wearable technology. Interestingly enough, the history of wearables actually dates back to the 13th century with the invention of the eyeglasses as well as the pocket watch in the 16th century. Wearable development was then driven largely by the military during World War I and II. Examples include wired hands-free devices integrated into pilots' flight helmets, wireless portable radio packs, as well as wristwatches, which they used for planning and coordinating various operations. The first wearable computer was actually developed in 1961 by two MIT researchers, Edward Thorpe and Claude Shannon, who developed a device that could accurately predict where the ball would land on a roulette wheel and could fit inside the pocket. A picture is included to the right of the timeline there. And then another interesting tidbit here, the first smartwatch was the Pulsar calculator watch in 1975 and was priced as high as $3,950. Now that we've looked at the history of wearable technology, we will move into the state of the art in wearable tech. The miniaturization trend, portability, wireless communication, energy efficient computing, and advanced display technologies have all been combined to create essentially state-of-the-art smart devices. In addition to conventional fitness trackers, smartwatches, etc., the upcoming generation of wearables will also involve augmented, virtual, mixed, and enhanced reality devices, various smart clothing, and industrial wearable equipment, such as a hard hat embedded with sensors to detect potential traumatic brain injuries. And here are some examples of state of the art in wearable technology that were featured at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The first is called the Gyro Glove, pictured to the right there. It uses a gyroscope to counter Parkinson's tremors and allows the wearer to be able to balance better and perform activities of daily living better. The next item is the Viction 01 eyeglasses, which actually reduce your eye strain by performing autofocusing. This is performed by using a time of flight sensor, which lets the glasses measure the distance of the target object and then quickly adjust the lenses on the go. These are not meant to be a replacement for regular eyeglasses, but just meant to reduce your eye strain. The Apollo Neuro is a device that's worn on the wrist and uses gentle vibrations to stimulate the nervous system. Reportedly, it enhances overall well-being through optimized heart rate variability and stress management. Users reportedly felt less stress and more focused, as well as got 30 minutes of extra sleep each night. So how are wearables used today? Wearables provide various monitoring and scanning features, including biofeedback and other sensory physiologic functions. They also provide actionable data that support user-specific insights to enhance our situational awareness and inform performance, health, and wellness outcomes. Essentially, they allow us to look at data from our own vital signs and allow us to potentially change our behavior or motivate us to become more active, such as with the Fitbit or the Apple Watch, which includes some motivating features that are an attempt to change our behavior. And the DoD applications for wearables. So interestingly, the Defense Health Agency is investing roughly $337 million in 6 wearable related programs from fiscal year 2021 to 2027. Basically, they want to try to leverage commercially available health and fitness wearables in an attempt to measure and improve readiness of military personnel. Here are some examples of wearable technology that is currently available. First is the head-mounted display such as the Apple Vision Pro or the Oculus Rift. The Apple Vision Pro is the one pictured on the right. Smartwatches such as the Apple Watch, the Garmin, or the Android smartwatch. Smart rings such as the Oura Ring pictured below, which typically monitors sleep as well as activity. And various other activity trackers for humans and animals. Most well known for humans is probably the Fitbit. And for animals, the Fi dog collar actually monitors the dog's number of steps as well as the dog's sleep and basic GPS tracking. As mentioned previously, the DoD is investing a lot of money into how wearables can be integrated into military life, as well as how they can be used to improve readiness. Here are some examples of how the various individual services are investigating wearables. The Marine Corps primarily is working on something called the Biosensor Project, where they use wearables and other athletic analytical software to investigate how sleep factors, body analysis, and daily activity levels can affect individual physical readiness and prevent injury. Special operations forces are working on various projects. One example is the blast exposure monitoring system, where they're developing a wearable device to accurately identify, measure, and record personnel exposure to blast overpressure and support longitudinal surveillance of overall brain health, which is a huge issue in the military health community right now. The Air Force is working on a project called Materials for Aerospace Cognitive Sensing, where their main objective is to advance materials that will enable cognitive sensing in austere and extreme environments. More on how the DoD is using wearable technology. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency, through the Joint Science and Technology Office, is working on several projects. First was the Rapid Assessment of Threat Exposure project, which used Garmin 6 smartwatches and Aura smart rings to show that it was possible to predict onset of illness before clinical symptoms occurred in COVID patients. The next project is detecting indicators of chemical exposure, where the JSTO, as well as their industry partners, are working to develop wearable sensors to detect exposure to chemical warfare agents. And the next project is in-ear wearable device, where the JSTO, again, is working with government partners to collaborate and build an in-ear wearable device to detect changes in a service member's health via heart rate, oxygen level, and glucose. The next study was done through the Navy, and interestingly, I was also a part of this study on my deployment in 2021. It was called the Crew Readiness, Endurance, and Watch Standing Study. Over 1,000 sailors and Marines assigned to Navy warships, mine was the USS Essex, were enrolled in a study to help assess sleep health and fatigue data using Oura rings, as well as smartwatches. Now that we've looked at how wearables are used, we can move on to why are wearables or wearable technology important to us here. The global enterprise wearable market accounted for over $18 billion in 2017 and is predicted to grow at more than 20% annually. Wearable shipments started at 113 million in 2017 and reached 222 million by 2021, and it's only going to increase from there. The proliferation of wearables is thus expected to steadily increase over the following decades, with a predominant transition from bracelets and fitness trackers to smarter and more feature-rich wearables, which we're already seeing. They're also being used in multiple other industries, such as industrial, for example, monitoring chemical exposure, or transportation, so tracking where vehicles are, etc. So how do wearables relate to modeling and simulation? Most fitness, sports, and healthcare wearable applications utilize complex models to process the raw data that it collects from us, the end users, to translate it into meaningful information that we can use from the wearable. For example, the calorie burn on an activity tracker. So it takes your raw data of movements or heart rate, and then it uses a model to calculate a calorie burn. Another similar example is cardiac strain, for example, used on the Whoop wearable. And for simulation, augmented reality as well as virtual reality wearables and haptic suits, etc., can be used for high fidelity immersive simulation or task trainers, such as the one pictured on the right. So this is using an Oculus Rift and using a virtual reality training program. So where is the future of wearable technology going? It's clear that wearables are here to stay and will only continue to develop over the course of the next few decades. So some examples of future iterations of wearables are listed here. First is the eSkin, which is artificial skin with mechanical properties of human skin, to provide various sensing functions with the main application area of artificial tactile systems. Next is e-textiles or smart fabrics, which have sensors or circuits directly integrated with the fabric and can communicate with an app or a separate device. Next is haptic suits, so full or partial body haptic feedback systems to allow for deeper immersion into various reality applications. You may have seen a version of this in the movie and book Ready Player One. For medical, ingestible or insertable devices that can be used for disease diagnostics or monitoring, for example, an ingestible capsule with a camera or continuous glucose sensing in the intestines. Neural interfaces such as the current developing Neuralink. It's a brain-computer interface directly connecting the brain's electricity with an external device. So this would help quadriplegic patients or paralyzed patients regain back some mobility, which is pretty neat. And finally, smart tattoos, which involve biosensors implanted under the skin, and then they can measure glucose levels or other protein levels and can change color as a result. Thanks for listening to my tech talk on wearable technology. These are my references, and I look forward to the discussion on the discussion board.